गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन। टुडे वी आर हियर विद द न्यू सीरीज ऑफ द 15th सेंचुरी इंग्लिश लिटरेचर। तो आज हम लोग 15th सेंचुरी के इंग्लिश लिटरेचर के बारे में पढ़ेंगे, जिसका टाइम ड्यूरेशन है 1400 टू 1550। तो इट्स टाइम पीरियड इज 1550। सो वी विल रीड टुडे द टाइम पीरियड ऑफ द इंग्लिश लिटरेचर। ओके, so here we will see now highlight क्या है, ड्रामा, मिस्ट्री प्ले, मॉरलिटी प्ले, रिलीजियस लिरिक, डेथ ऑफ ऑथर, द अराइवल ऑफ प्रिंटिंग प्रेस एंड स्कॉटिश पोएट्री एंड रॉबर्ट हेनरिसन एंड विलियम डेनबार्ड एंड गैविन डगलस। सो दीज आर द मेन पॉइंट वी हैव टू रीड टुडे। और हम इसके थ्रू आज यहाँ पे इंग्लिश लिटरेचर को पूरा करेंगे, द हिस्ट्री ऑफ द इंग्लिश लिटरेचर। सो हियर वी विल स्टार्ट। द 15th century is observed as a transitional period in the political and social era, and this period is seen as the comparatively barren in the field of the English literature. The 15th century was marked by the famous War of the Roses, which was a legendary 30 years war between the House of the Lancaster and the House of the York, which broke out in 1455. And it was a dispute for the succession to the English throne. And in the end, Henry VII defeated and killed Richard III at the Battle of the Bosworth. So, in which battle Henry VII defeated and killed Richard III? So that is Battle of Bosworth. Okay. Now the next thing we have to do. In 1485. So in which year? 1485. Henry was crowned as a king, and after this Henry was crowned as a king, and thereby establishing him the first Tudor monarch. So who established the Tudor monarch? So answer is Henry VII. Now W.H. Hudson called it a long barren period. So as we know, after the Chaucerian era, we can say when the 15th century came, it was not a good era or not so much popular era as the Elizabethan was. So it was a before Elizabethan era when the Henry VII get on the throne, and he stopped everything. Means in this time there is nothing pluralized in the field of literature or art. So that's why here W.H. Hudson is calling it a long barren period. So very important quote, you have to mark it. So only a few productive work were produced during this period, and the reason for the unproductiveness of the literary production during this age were the death of the Geoffrey Chaucer. So what is the first reason? First reason is the death of the Geoffrey Chaucer, and there was utter death of the talent. And because of the death of the Geoffrey Chaucer, there's so many death was done. Means we can say there's no rising or birth of the talent, and hence there was a lack of motivation. No one was talented enough to carry the Chaucerian custom forward with the great chill and the jest. And it was the age of Chaucer imitators who could show little originality. And deadly effect War of Roses. So because of the War of Roses, it was stopped. In this period, nothing has done. Now the other factor responsible for the badness, the first is political conflict. Second is deficiency of poetic understanding, and the third one is no free movement of thought and poor state of education. So these are the reason behind it. That's why there is no flourishing and there is no birth of literature has done in this era. Now this is a period known as the invention of the printing press, but the one thing has done in this era, that is the invention of printing press. We can say that is similar to the invention of the mobile phone. Now this time in our country, everyone is using mobile phone. They are and because of that mobile phone and the Geo mobile, or we can say Geo SIM, everyone are able to explore so many things. So same thing happened in that time. Then when the time was 1450, or we can say 15th century, the printing press has came in England, and because of this, so many new things start coming. So this is the period known as the invention of the printing press. Printing machine was the first invented by the Gutenberg in 1450. So what is the reason? So first question will be come here, who invented printing press? So the answer is Gutenberg in 1450. And who was introduced? And it was introduced in 1476 after we can say 26 year in England by William Caxton. So William Caxton इसको introduce किया था इंग्लैंड में when during 1476. Okay. Now the next thing we will see here, the recital of the history of the Troy is Reswell des Histories de Troyes. 1464 was a French courtly romance written by Royal Lefebvre. This book was translated into English by William Caxton. So first time the book translated by William Caxton is Reswell of the histories of the Troy और रेवलिस टी हॉस्ट्रीज टी ट्रॉय 1464. ठीक है, तो ये बुक पहली बार हुई थी, एंड इट वॉज द फर्स्ट बुक प्रिंटेड इन द इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज, एंड फर्स्ट टाइम दे यूज इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज इन दैट बुक. द फर्स्ट इंग्लिश book that Caxton is known to have produced was edition of Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. So again here we can see that the first English book, जब उन्होंने सबसे पहले तो उन्होंने एक फ्रेंच बुक को पब्लिश किया, ठीक है, जो कि फ्रेंच कोर्ट से थी, जिसको इंग्लिश में उन्होंने प्रिंट किया. फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने फर्स्ट टाइम एक इंग्लैंड की बुक को भी पब्लिश किया, जो कि कैंटरबरी टेल्स थी, जो कि ऑलरेडी इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज में लिखी गई थी. ओके Now we can say that 15th century is the era of imitation. Yes, Chaucer was the representative poet of the age who expressed a free secular spirit with remarkable technical excellence, and he was endowed with a forward-looking quality and anticipated modernity in numerous ways in the literature. And his followers were just imitators who followed his style, who had some of the imaginative spirit, but who failed in the music and art of the Chaucer. So again, we can say that in this year, after Chaucer, no one able to rise anything, no one able to speak anything, no one able to compose anything. So after this, the people who are writing anything, the poet, the author, anything who are writing anything, they are only imitating the Chaucer in that time, because Chaucer is the only one who has written so many good things in his life, and that's why this is the time of the imitation by the followers. Now here we will see the next reason is political conflict. So again, after the War of Roses, again there's so many series of wars began, like the War of Roses when held between 1455 to 1485. So yes, so after 100 year war का कब timing है? It was I think 1385 to 1476 like that. ऐसे कुछ है उसका timing. तो उसके बाद क्या पता 15th century में the War of Roses start हो गया था, that is related to 1455 to 1485, means it was when till 30 years and were series of bloody English civil war and control of throne of England between two competing royal families, the House of York and the House of Lancaster. तो House of York और House of Lancaster के बीच में दो वॉर हुआ था, जो कि War of Roses के नाम से जाना गया था. बोथ मेंबर ऑफ दिस ओल्ड रॉयल प्लेंटेजिनेट फैमिली, और माना जाता है ये जो दोनों मेंबर थे, दोनों ग्रुप थे, ये एक रॉयल फैमिली से बिलोंग करते थे. इवेंचुअली द वॉर एलिमिनेटेड द मेन लाइन ऑफ बोथ फैमिलीज एंड सोक द वेरी फाउंडेशन ऑफ फेडरलिज्म. तो ये कहा जाता है कि जो सबसे पहले इस वॉर के से क्या हुआ कि दोनों ग्रुप के जो भी मेल थे उनको ख़त्म हो गया, मतलब दे वर एलिमिनेटेड, उनका अंत हो गया. और इस तरीके से कहीं ना कहीं फेडरलिज्म कहीं ना कहीं कांप गई थी. जो फेडरलिज्म का जो था कि ऊंच नीच की भावना जिसमें रहती थी, है ना, उसमें बहुत बड़ा बदलाव देखने को मिला था. द वॉर ऑफ रोजेस अर्न इट्स फ्लावरी नेम बिकॉज द वाइट रोज वॉज द बैज ऑफ योग. क्योंकि जो वॉर ऑफ रोजेस इसलिए इसका नाम पड़ा था क्योंकि जो योग लोग थे उनका जो बैच था, जो उनकी निशानी थी, वो वाइट रोज थी. एंड द रेड रोज वॉज द बैच ऑफ लैंकेस्टर, और जो लैंकेस्ट्रियन की जो बैच थी वो थी रेड रोज. Again, we will see the third reason, no free movement of thought. So why it was called the baronage? Because no free movement of thought. The freedom of thought and expression was hampered. Religion and life values continued to degenerate, and all effort to reform were crushed by the those in power. So literature were requires a free atmosphere development and could not flourish. So यहाँ पे कोई भी free movement नहीं था, कोई thought freely thoughtful नहीं हो सकता था. ठीक है, religions और life की कोई value नहीं रह गई थी. तो that the reason it was called the baronage. Now again, poor state of education. जब एजुकेशन ही नहीं रहेगा, एजुकेटेड ही नहीं रहेंगे, तो कैसे कोई आगे कुछ किसी भी फील्ड में आगे बढ़ सकता है. तो यहाँ पे आप देखेंगे यूनिवर्सिटी वर नॉट सेंटर ऑफ इंटेलेक्चुअल एक्टिविटी, दे हैड बिकम द सेंटर ऑफ एंडलेस एंड यूजलेस कंट्रोवर्सीज ओवर द ड्राई एब्स्ट्रैक्शंस ऑफ मेडिवल फिलॉसफी. अगेन यहाँ पे जो यूनिवर्सिटीज़ थी वो सेंटर हो चुकी थी किस चीज़ की, करप्शन की. वहाँ पे कंट्रोवर्सीज की सेंटर हो चुकी थी. लोग फालतू के आके बैठ के बातें करते थे, पढ़ाई वहाँ बिल्कुल नहीं होती थी. एंड देयर वाज नथिंग टू इंस्पायर, वहाँ पे कुछ भी ऐसे इंस्पायर करने के लिए नहीं था, बट मच टू रिप्रेस लिटरेरी जीनियस. हाँ, लेकिन लिटरेरी जीनियस को रिप्रेस करने के लिए बहुत कुछ था. मतलब वहाँ पे आए दिन आंदोलन होते थे, मूवमेंट होते थे, एंड पीपल आर नॉट टेकिंग देयर क्लासेस. सच स्टूडेंट आर इन्वॉल्व इन डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ रिलीजियस वॉर, एंड हेंस इन सच एटमोसफेयर इन इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेंडेंस नो talented poet was born, and because of this no poet was able to speak very well in that time, and they were not able to compose anything in that type of situation. आप ही मान लो अगर आपके देश में कोई अभी ऐसा कुछ सिचुएशन स्टार्ट हो जाए, आपको यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में पढ़ाई के लिए बिल्कुल कोई रास्ता ना मिले, तो व्हाट यू विल डू. सो सेम थिंग हैपन इन दैट टाइम. इमरजेंसी टाइप का माहौल था. नाउ द डिफिशिएंसी ऑफ पोएटिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग. सो हियर इट वाज द इपोक ऑफ द चेंज ऑफ द स्टेट ऑफ द इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज. चॉसर फॉलोअर्स फेल्ड टू अंडरस्टैंड हिज क्योर एंड एक्यूरेट versification and made a mess of the material art. And this appearance of inflection of E and other inflections created a problem when the final E had become entirely mute. Chaucer's line badly read and transcribed and later badly printed seemed too variable and irregular. The English words form a thrown out of its balance and definitely recovered the sure rhythm of the Spenser. So वही चीज़ है, इस चौसर की जो भी वर्क्स थे उसका सब लोग इमिटेट तो करते, but they were not using the right meter, the right rhythm, because as we know Chaucer was using extra in his work, in his word. But after Chaucer, the people of this era, means in 15th century, the people are not using correct spelling or the sound which was used by Chaucer in his era. Okay, now here we will see the next thing, an age of the preparation. So we can say before the Elizabethan era, the age of preparation is called 15th century. Why? Because 15th century was the seed time for the germination literature of high order to time of come, because it was a time duration when the new seeds are going to germinate for the in the field of art and literature. After the invention of the printing press, this is a big we can say step taken by Caxton, okay, or Gutenberg after inventing it. So here we will see Caxton established printing press in 1476 that made it possible for the book of the idea to reach the whole nation, and as a result Greek idea and Greek culture became popular. Okay, so after the invention of printing press, which was established by Caxton in England, that made it a possible for a book or idea to teach whole nation. ठीक है, इसकी वजह से कहीं ना कहीं whole nation में बहुत बड़ा बदलाव आया, लोगों तक किताबें पहुंचने लगी, लोग पढ़ने लगे, and they were using, and the main thing of the translation is the easy language. Means earlier they were using Latin, earlier they were using Greek, but because of the publishing, because of the translation, they Caxton has used common people language, mass language. Mass language means only native English they use. Okay, and because of this they were able to read Bible very well. Okay, in a big manner, in a huge manner. Now we will talk about the Reformation led the path of the man spiritual freedom. So here the new era of Reformation came. Earlier we have read about Renaissance, now Reformation has came. We will start thinking about their freedom, and the tradition of establishing the monasteries were replaced by the establishment of schools and universities. So people start establishing the school and university in the place of monasteries. People travel far and wide. People travel far and wide. This is a great thing happening in the time. Great explorer discovered new trade route. So here we can see Vasco da Gama. Okay, Christopher Columbus had discovered new places or new path, or we can say the new trade route. Columbus discovered America in 1492. So here we will see Columbus discovered what? America. Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer and the first European to reach India by sea in 1497 to 1499. So it was the first to link Europe and Asia by the ocean route. So this is also the time of the invention of different things. Like they also invented the new path, new trade route, and apart from this, they also invented the what? Printing press. And he was the first to link Europe and Asia. And who is the first? Vasco da Gama is the first who linked Europe and Asia by the ocean route. And Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer. He discovered America on 12 October 1492. And after 5 years, there was a Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer. He reached India on 20th May 1498, and he was the first European to reach India by sea. He arrived on western sea coast of the India of the Kozhikode, Calicut, Kerala. Okay, so these are the things we have to keep in our mind. I hope you people will understanding what we are reading right now. Okay. Now we will see the next thing, that is the English Chaucerian or the Scottish Chaucerian. What is the difference between them and what they were writing in that time? Okay, so Chaucer was imitated both in England and in Scots. As we know, Chaucer is three ages era poet. Chaucerian, we can say. French, English, and Scottish. So Chaucer was imitated both England and in Scotland. The Scottish Chaucerian shows sign of freshness and originality in compared to English Chaucerian. The English Chaucerian were poor imitator of their master of arts, and they contributed nothing to the advancement of poetry during 15th century. So if we talk about England Chaucerian or Scottish Chaucerian, though Scottish Chaucerian are more better than that English Chaucerian. If we talk about English Chaucerian, so here we will talk about Thomas Hockel and Ockel. Ockel, we can say, who was born in 1368 and died in 1426, was an English poet and clerk who was seen as a key figure in 15th century Middle English literature. And his principal work were Regiment of Princes or De Regiment Principium, written for Henry V, England, shortly before his accession in Homily of Virtue and Vices. The next work is La May Regal. La May Regal is 1406, one of his most fluid and lively work and mock penitential work that gives some glimpse of the dissipation of his youth. Next is Hockley Complaint and Dialogue, the Complaint of Our Lady. Now the next writer is John Legate of Bury, who was born in 1370 and died in 1451, was a monk and poet born in Legate and near the Haverhill, Suffolk of England, and his popular work were The Siege of Thebes. The Siege of Thebes is a popular work which was written in 4716 line in a chivalric epic. The poem is a large part of the response to Geoffrey Chaucer, The Canterbury Tale. So, Licket's poem borrowed the Canterbury Tales pilgrimage-based framing device and is written in additional tale in the cycle. Okay. The most famous work is longer and more moralistic Troy book. Okay, so who is the writer? John Legate of the Bury, and who was written it during 1412 to 1420, and that is 30,000 line translation of the Latin post narrative of the Guido delle Coloni. Guido delle Coloni. Now the next thing we can see, the fall of princes. The fall of princes is 1431 to 1408 is the last and longest Legate's work. Okay, so Legate was also believed to have written London Lyckpenny, a well-known satirical work. So these are the things you have to keep in mind. Legate was also believed to have written London Lyckpenny. So these are the things. Hence, it was the period of the Chaucer imitator who dwelt on outworn themselves. And there is no freshness and originality in the poetry of this period. The sense of beautiful seems to have died out of its sense of life and reality. Lifeless imitation assumed the outworn grab of romance and allegory. But the above discussion is very true in case of the English Chaucerian, but Scottish Chaucerian exhibited better performance than poetry in poetry. So if we compare English Chaucerian or Scottish Chaucerian, so we can say that the Scottish Chaucerian are much better than English Chaucerian because they were not imitators. They were the poet of their own role and regulation, and they are making their own poetry. Okay. So in poetry, it was the age of ballad. So again, we can say when they were composing poetry, so they were composing what? They were composing ballad more. The ballad of the Chevy Chase. The ballad of the Chevy Chase was the one of the most known English ballad. This ballad was very popular. So please keep in your mind the ballad of Chevy Chase. So in 1711, Joseph Addison wrote the Spectator. So in this time, the first time, the new era of the work came, the Spectator. The old song of Chevy Chase is a favorite ballad of the common people of England. So he has written. And Ben Jonson used to say that he had rather have been the author than all of these work. Okay. Now here we will talk about Sir Philip Sidney in the defense of poesy. Right, I have here the old song of Percy and Douglas that I found not my heart more moved than with the trumpet, and yet it is sung by some blind crowders with no rougher voice than Jude style, with being so evil, April in the dust and cobweb of that uncivil age that would it work to trim it in the gorgeous eloquence of the Pinenders. For my own part, I am so professed and admirer of the antiquated song that I shall give my reader a critic upon it without any further apology for so doing. So these are the statements they have written. Now here we will read about the poetry in Scotland. So if we talk about the poetry in Scotland, the best poetry of 15th century was in Scotland, where though Chaucer influence was clearly marked, the spirit of originality was far stronger, and the Scottish poetry is characterized by the love and wild nature for its own shake and the love of color. It is also noticeable for the bitter and coarser humor. Scottish poetry is concise, easily seen or noticed for a strong national element. Now, here commenting the originality of Scottish poetry, Stopford Brooke, who was born in 1832 and died in 1916, Irish churchman and writer, said that the natural description of Chaucer, Shakespeare, Ever Milton is not distinctly English, but in Scotland it is always the scenery of their own land. The poet describe even when they are imitating Chaucer, they do not imitate his conventional landscape. They put in a Scottish landscape, and in the work of such man as Gavin Douglas, the love of the Scotland and love of nature mingle their influence together to make him sit down and it were to paint with his eye on everything. He paint a series of Scottish landscape. Okay. Now here we will talk about the Scottish Chaucerian. So Chaucer influence on 15th century literature began toward the beginning of the century of English came first of the Scotland. King James, King of Scotland from 1460 to 1437. This first phase of Scottish Chaucerianism was followed by the second phase comprising the work of Robert Henryson, William Dunbar and Gavin Douglas. By this point of time, England had given recognition to Scotland as an independent state following the end of the War of the Scottish Independence in 1357. The Scottish history and the English recent involvement in the history made these writers well familiar with the work of the Geoffrey Chaucer. So here we will talk about the Scottish poetry. So in the 15th century, the best poetry of English came from Scotland. This kingdom, united under Malcolm Canmore in the late 11th century, had four tongues: Highland, Gaelic, Lowland English, and Clerkly Latin, and Lordly Anglo-Norman French. So sorry. There are four tongues: Highland Gaelic, Lowland English, Clerky Latin, and Lordly Anglo-Norman French. So since the 7th century, English had been spoken on the east coast from the river of the Tweed to the Edinburgh. Its speaker called the tongue of the Gaels, who since 5th century had come into the agricole from Ireland, Scottish. A great Gael was Latin. Scottish, a name then extended to Lowlanders, who called the northern English they spoke English. After 14th century war with England, the Lowlander called his speech Scottish, called the Gaelic, and the original Scottish, and the Latin Irish. The first Scottish literature is the Brush of John Barber, 1325 to 95, archdeacon of Aberdeen, who studied in Oxford in Paris. The Bruce 1375 is a heroic life of the Robert of the Bruce, who defeat of the Edward II at the Bannockburn of 1314 made him king of the Scotland. And this lively chronicle had nearly 14,000 knocked to slavery, the most quoted of this, which is a freedom of noble thing. So these are the things we have to keep in our mind. Okay. Now the next thing we have to do, the first phase of the Scottish Chaucerism. Important. So the first phase of Scottish Chaucerism, that is James I Scotland between 1394 to 1437. Okay. So James I and his work, The King's Square, represent the first phase of Chaucerism, which purposefully and direct imitate the work of Chaucer while preserving the Scottish author's own uniqueness. Here, King James I of Scotland wrote The King's Quaes, a series of courtly love poems written in rhyme or stanza. And these allegorical romance reveal the influence of Chaucer's Roman de La Rose, and Troilus and Cressida. It followed the Chaucerian model of the dream and garden and the introduction of the allegorical figures and the stanza of rhyme rolls and the addiction of the blend of the Scottish and Chaucerian form. This poem is not merely conventional application of Chaucer courtly writing, it is also introduced the Scottish literature and discourse of subjectivity, in which the first person is the subject of the poem. The king writes this poem as a short of the autobiography about his experience in English captivity. Although James I is willing to build on the style of the English Chaucer, his writing reflects the beginning of the Scottish national identity. In this poem, he narrated the story of the love sincerely, no doubt, but not with the dramatic realism of Chaucer. He mixed much allegory with reality. Now, the second phase of Scottish Chaucerian, which is related to the poet Robert Henryson, William Dunbar, and Gavin Douglas, represent the second phase of Chaucerian, and a more academic one which adapts Chaucer's style to the author's more individual and nationalistic purpose. So here we will read about the Robert Henryson, who was born in 1425 and died in 1500. So Robert Henryson was a schoolmaster at the Duffer Malign, Fife. His fable was a great achievement, but his greatest achievement is the Testament of Cressida, a critical rewriting of Chaucer, Troilus, and Cressida. And Henryson provided his work a fine tragic conclusion. He disregards Chaucer's conclusion and creates a totally new ending where Troilus is kept alive to permit one final encounter with his lover, who has been reduced to leprosy. Its diction is an artificial brand of that Chaucer of the colloquial Scot. It overloaded with a descriptive epithet, but it is picturesque and dramatic. Now here, Troilus and Cressida is an epic poem by Geoffrey Chaucer which retells the Middle English tragic story of a lover, Troilus and Cressida. The story is set against the backdrop of war during the siege of the Troy. Troilus, youngest son of the Priam, king of the Troy, and wooer of the Cresside. In Trojan War, he ambushed and murdered by the Achilles, a Greek warrior. Although there are many similarities between the subject matter and refinement of the verse in the Chaucer and Henryson, the latter poet transcends literary imitation and brings his own Scottish nationalism into his writing. Henryson's work concentrates on the more local issue in the Scotland, which give his work a more popular quality than Chaucer's. The major work of Henryson's are the moral fables of Aesop and the Trigon, the tale of the Orpheus and the Eurydice of Queen, and the Testament of Cressida. So these are the things he has written in his time. He had written. Now again, the second person we will read, that is William Dunbar. So who was born in 1460 and died in 1520. Okay. So William Dunbar is considered to be the chief of the Scottish Chaucerian poet. So here is the first question: who is considered the chief Scottish Chaucerian poet? So there is William Dunbar. So as Dunbar belongs to the latest medieval phase, his work is quite far from that of the Chaucers. He wrote a subject of passing interest and imitated the Chaucerian line, but he has energy and pictorial quality that are quite individuals. Although Dunbar's tales include the ironic gesture that recall the wife of the bath and the merchant of the tale, he utilized a much wilder humor than Chaucer. So very important. If we talk about Chaucer, Chaucer has not used so much humor, but if we talk about the Dunbar, he had to use a lot of humor in comparison of Chaucer. So his late poetry as his satirical ballad, A Dance of the Seven Deadly Scene, is very important. Combine vigor and broad humor and homely pathos while belong to wholly to the character of the poet and to his national soil. So here Dunbar's poems are often set in the Densa Code of the James Ford, the last of the steward of the Speak to Gaelic, and James died at the medieval raid of England at the mysterious defeat of the Flodden in 1513. Okay. So William Dunbar is a Robert Burns of the 15th century with something and poet, passion of beauty, native human and force of expression. So Dunbar is even credited with the first printed use of the word pub. Okay.